What's up, everyone? Quick market update. Then I'm going to talk about some GME updates as well. We did have an expiration cycle today that we need to take a look at because we have some interesting options activity. Nothing, and I'm really against being hyperbolic in what I talk about. It's nothing insane, but there are things that I kind of caught, which we have a handful of large transactions coming through. So we'll take a look at that in just 1 second. But I do want to show you some broader economic data really fast. I did this yesterday, and it's mostly because I am a trader writ large. I'm very interested in what's going on with GameStop, obviously. But I also think it's important to share some of the other market effects going on right now because there's just a lot going on, and it's good to be aware. Whether you just want to trade GameStop or you want to learn about other things, I think it's worthwhile. So long story short, we're seeing a couple big things happen. Primarily, CPI came out yesterday and it came in a little bit hot. Then we have PPI come out today and it was forecasted at 2.3%, came in at 2.6%. And we also had the Michigan sentiment come out. This is kind of like a macroeconomic assessment, and that came in light. So it was expected at 68.5, came in at 66. All of this matters because right now, from a broad market perspective, we care so much about the rate environment and when we think we might be seeing a cut. So there's actually a really cool tool. You can use bond futures and bonds themselves if you're inclined to calculate the market's perception and probability of a prospective cut. But you can also use this tool here, and it's called the Fed Watch tool. It's very, very cool. And really, I just want to show you this really quick. If you compare the probabilities, it shows you different time frames. So this shows you the current probability. This shows you from a day ago, a week ago, a month ago. And this is specifically what I want to show you. If you go to 18 September, the probability of a cut has skyrocketed. This is something to be aware of because if we do get a cut, the probability is for you to see things like small caps and bonds go up. And that's what we're already starting to see. So you can see that the Russell, which is the Russell 2000 index, has gone off the chain. This is a freaking index. And it's gone up essentially from 2036 to 2163 in 3 days. That is a massive move. You do not see things like this happen frequently. This is a huge money-making opportunity. That's what it boils down to. And if we take a look at TLT, it's a similar story. Over the last 3 days, it's had, relative to what it is, a very big move. So I just want you guys to be aware of those things as you go throughout the rest of your weekend, planning trades and stuff like that. But let's get into the belle of the ball, what most people are interested in, which is GameStop. So let me zoom this in a little bit, like 6-month daily. A couple things. This positive drift continues. I talked about this not too long ago. If I go into like a 30-day, 4-hour chart, notice again, I keep talking about this term low that we saw on the 1st of July, and we've just kind of been slowly building up. Now, there was a couple comments in my last video where people are like, don't look at the price is fake. And I understand their perspective. I know why they think that. It's still important to look at the price. Now, as I always say, I think attempting to apply standard technical analysis in something like GameStop is silly because that's not what makes it special. And I've said that a million times. I'm not going to belabor that point further. But I don't think it's good to get too binary in your assessment of information as a trader. So what that means is because some people think the price is so heavily manipulated that it's fake, what they miss is that while the manipulation and those things might be happening, it doesn't mean just throw the price out entirely, never look at it. I get their perspective, but like I try to remind people in general, kind of finding a balance is really useful, I find, in trading. So I just encourage people to kind of consider that, even with something like GameStop, which again, I'm on the same page as you guys with a lot of things. There are a lot of very squirrely things going on. And it's actually something that Newton and I are going to talk about more tomorrow during our next live stream together, which will be at 5 p.m. Pacific time, same place as last week. And this one will be probably like a 2-hour long session. So I'm excited to get further into detail because there is a lot going on here. I'm just encouraging people, don't just throw out information because you think it's so heavily manipulated that it's completely fake, you miss some details, which are kind of useful to see, which another interesting detail. We saw volume die off today, yet price didn't crater yet again. So this floor still continues to be respected to some degree. And when I say floor, I'm not saying any sort of price or line on the chart. I just mean that, again, if people really wanted to bury this thing and try shorting it into the dirt, they're not doing it, because I'm not seeing any volume stepping up to a big degree here. And I'm not seeing massive sale volume. Even today, it was what, 39% sale volume. It's just not an overwhelming amount of sale volume coming in, which I still continue to find slightly intriguing. And we're coming into a really important expiration cycle, way more important in my opinion than today's. And the reason being is because these weekly expirations, as I've said a lot, tend to be quiet. And notice what happened here. The volatility for next week's expiration cycle is jacking way up, way up. It's now up to almost 140%. This was down not that long ago. So the market is starting to build a little bit of an anticipation for this coming expiration cycle. Not so much out here in the 16 AUG just yet. That's still hovering around like 121. It's still much higher than the surrounding expiration cycles. Again, like, this is telling information from a trading perspective, from it's specifically an options trading perspective. You can pull out a lot of details of what the market is expecting to happen based on how it's pricing volatility. Volatility is an expectation of movement. So when we see volatility on a relative basis to this time frame being this much higher than these other two, that tells you market is saying, I'm expecting bigger movement in this expiration cycle as compared to 9 AUG or 23 AUG. Well, sometimes you might infer, well, maybe there's earnings in there. Well, we know that's not the case. It just had earnings. So that tells you the market is seeing something here. What exactly? We don't know yet. Of not knowing, there was a big old trade that came through today. So the 16 AUG 2430 calls, we saw 998 of those. And this was a sale that came in. They were picked up at 263, and that's where the bid was. So it came in right at the bid. Again, the expectation there is that this is a sale position, but the notional value of this trade is over $200,000, $262,000. So this is somebody collecting a decent amount of money is what this is. And it could be part of covered calls. That's not a bad payday for essentially a month of perspective holding, even up to 30. It's $250,000 right there. So somebody is kind of picking up a decent chunk of change there. You can speculate who or what that might be. I genuinely don't know. That's not like some sort of hidden message. I know you guys are really good at looking for those. That's not to infer I think that that's RK, although it absolutely could be. I genuinely have no clue who that is. This is also a fascinating trade. So we had 546 come in at the 20 calls, 16 AUG. So again, 546 times 675. It's a $368,000 trade. Same expiration, same sell side. So again, expectation of downside. And then take a look at these. The 16 Jan 26, 20 calls, 483 of those. And those came in at 1330. It's a $642,000 position. What I'm showing you is that there's money moving in here. It's very clear. And look, there's even more down here at the 16 Jan 26s. So there's activity. This is pretty lively in terms of total position sizing that we've seen lately. So I think that that's worth at least highlighting. Again, inferring what this precisely translates over into. It's a little bit early to tell, in my opinion, but there's activity, which to me, in and of itself, is pretty good. So you can see from Unusual Whales here, they kind of a breakdown of the premium transactions. I'll get rid of the bids for now, which means transactions that we think occurred somewhere on the sell side, and just take a look at the pickups. So we do have those 16 Jan 26, that one we were just talking about, $642,000 at the 20s. We have the 17 Jan 25s, the 20s again. That's a $500,000 trade. We have the 20s again in 16 Jan 26. This is another $333,000 trade. You start looking at the numbers between these, they're not far apart at all in terms of when they were filled. 854.50, 854.50, slightly different sizes, almost $1 million. Curious to me, pretty far out though. So these are definitely long runway style trades, but the 20s are getting hit across a bunch of different expirations. There's a lot of expectation to the upside occurring here. So if we go down now to see our open interest, the call side is opening up a little bit compared to the put side. Again, the puts were about 500,000 yesterday. It's a little bit higher, like 525 now, whatever. But these ticked up 914,000 as compared to the 800,000. So this is starting to widen out again into that kind of more persistent call leaning relationship that we've seen. And if we take a look at the volume today, we're back over $300,000. Yesterday was very quiet. It was under 200,000 contracts. I think I said $300,000. I didn't mean that. I meant contracts. If I did, who knows? Who knows what I'm saying anymore? It's so hard to keep track of reality when you're looking at something like this, because so much of this is just so crazy. Today, 99,000 puts went out, and the overwhelming majority of volume you can see is centered on today and then 19 July. Take a look at these 19 July 30s, 30,469 of them going off. So there is this standard rotation that we've talked about before coming out into the next primary expiration cycle. This here is becoming interesting to me. The 30s now have 60,000 OI with an additional 30,000 volume today. Over yesterday, it was 15,700 net positive adds to the contracts, meaning opening positions. So that's not an insignificant amount of activity. We also have some of these further in the monies, these 28,000 at the 25s with another 8 coming in. And then we have our homie out here that we picked up a little while ago, all the way down at the 10s, and he's still hanging out. I can see his position right there. So he's been kind of riding solo. I just been keeping an eye on him because, trying to keep him some company. He's in all the way in there by himself. And let's open this up all the way. Let's check the super far strikes, and we see the same thing as usual. The 125s have 56,000 contracts on them with 5,600 traded today. Net positive over yesterday's 2,700. So people still building a position here. As I hear myself talking about this, it almost sounds like I'm talking about the weather. It's kind of funny, but I'm literally talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars being thrown around with a week to go. And if they're out of the money, they're worth nothing, which is always pretty fun about options. If we think about it, that's what makes them the special little things that they are. So for me, I took a few of my positions down today. I had the 16 AUGs. Those came down because there was a decent price accommodation. And then I have exposure now still via shares. And then I'm out in 20 September and 18 October as where I'm looking. I didn't get a fill on the 18 Octobers. It was a little too illiquid, but that's where I'm looking to go next. So, I'm playing along with it as it's continuing to move in this direction. Again, I'm a trader. I'm fascinated by the story, but there are two different parts of my brains. The trader part of me is here to make money, nothing more, nothing less. And then there's the just fascination with this whole saga and the interest in the story itself, which I don't see that dying off anytime soon, but that's kind of the way I think about this thing. The way I'm trading it is the way I trade anything, which is with the pure intention of making money on the product. So, as always, if there's any questions or anything you want me to take a look at, people have been sending me emails with all different kinds of interesting things. Some of them are pretty crazy, but I love them all the same. Like I tell anybody, I think it's important to be open to new information, but that doesn't mean that we fully believe everything we see. We're really good at looking for patterns. The brain is primed to do those kinds of things. That's actually why some people are really good at trading, is because you can start to identify patterns. But we have to, at least for me, I try to remain as objective as I possibly can in the evaluation of things. So I love taking a look at the stuff that you guys are sending me. I'm really, really appreciative. Thank you so much for sharing more of the story and information with me. If there's anything you want me to take a look at, as always, let me know. Be an outlier. Tune in tomorrow to the live stream with Newton. I'll see you guys later.